Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back, friends. Welcome to another video lecture by Microbiology. In this video lecture, we are going to talk about substance secreted by the granules of WBC and their action. Means what kinds of the substance are secreted? What kind of the substance are secreted from the granules of the WBC? And what are the action of each substances or each chemicals when it is secreted from the WBC granules? So we'll be talking all this in this video lecture. So let's start. Now, first of all, the substances which are secreted by WBC. So first of all, we have, neutrophils. Now, neutrophils, what kind of the substance neutrophil can secrete? Neutrophil secrete protease, myeloperoxidase, elastases, metalloproteinases. And the action of each substance. Now, these substances are secreted from the granules of the neutrophil, and the action of each substance, destruction of the microorganisms. Similarly, we have another substance or chemicals which is secreted from the neutrophil granules. We call that defensins, and the action of this defensin is antimicrobial action against the microorganisms. Anti-inflammatory action means it is against the inflammation direction. Wound healing, help in wound healing and chemotaxis. They can call upon some other cell as well. We have another, chemicals which is secreted from the granules. We call it catalycidins. And the action of this catalycidins is the antimicrobial action. NADPH oxidase. And the action of these chemicals is bactericidal action. Means they can kill the bacteria. Platelet activating factor, aggregation of the platelets. Now next we have another cell which we call it eosinophil. Now what are the function or what kind of substance are secreted from the eosinophil? So first of all, we have eosinophil peroxidase. Now this eosinophil peroxidase can their action of destruction of worms, bacteria and tumor cells. So whenever eosinophil secrete eosinophil peroxidase enzyme, so they can destruct the worm, bacteria and tumor cells. Moreover, they are also secrete major basic proteins, and they are responsible for the destruction of worms. They also secrete eosinophil cationic proteins, which are used in the destruction of worms, neurotoxic action. If we see those chemicals which are secreted from the eosinophil, so the main function of the eosinophil here to destroy the worms. Usually they are specially responsible to destroy the worms, and if they produce any kind of the chemical, so such chemical are usually responsible to kill these kinds of the worms. Now they are also responsible to produce this eosinophilia derived neurotoxin, which are responsible for the neurotoxic action. They are also secrete interleukin 4 and interleukin 5. And the action of these interleukin 4 are what? They can accelerate the inflammation inflammatory responses. And the next, action of this interleukin 4 and 5 are the destruction of the invading organism, or we can say that they have the ability of the bactericidal action as well. Now let's explain the other cell. Then we have another cell which we usually call that basophil. Now, what kind of the substances are secreted from the basophil? So, usually basophil secrete heparin. And the action of this heparin, they can prevent of intravascular blood clotting. It means whenever heparins are secreted, so due to this heparin, the blood which is present inside the vessel will be not clot. So as you are seeing that the blood are circulated inside the vessel, but it is not clotted. And whenever it is not clotted, it is possible by this heparin. Now it is also produced histamine, bradykinin and serotonin. Due to this way, the action of each chemicals is the production of acute hypersensitivity reaction. So due to these kinds of the chemical, they can cause hypersensitivity reaction. We have protease, myeloperoxidase, and the action of these protease and myeloperoxidase is the destruction of the microorganism. Now next we have interleukin 4, and the action of this interleukin 4 is for the acceleration of inflammatory responses and also responsible for the destruction of the invading microorganism, as we talked it in the eosinophil as well. Next we have monocytes. So these are the chemicals which are secreted from the monocytes. Now these are what? These are the chemicals. All these are the chemicals. So first of all, we have interleukin 1. And the action of interleukin 1 is the acceleration of inflammatory response. Means they can accelerate the inflammatory response. They can destruct or destroy the invading organism. And we have colony stimulating factor, and the colony stimulating factor, when this chemical is secreted, then the action of this chemical is the formation of colony forming blastocytes. So they can cause what? They can cause the formation of colony forming blastocytes. Now next we have platelet activating factors. Now what are the action of this platelet activating factor? They can aggregate the platelets. Aggregate the platelets on that area where the, if this area is cut, so they can, then we can say that this kinds of chemical are secreted, means platelet activated chemical are secreted. Due to this way, the aggregation of the platelet on this specific area can occur, and due to this way, what we can say, the area is filled up. Next we have chemokines. What are the function of these chemokines? They can cause the chemotaxis, means call upon the other cells. Next we have T lymphocytes. Now what kind of the substances are secreted from the T lymphocyte? So T lymphocyte usually secrete this interleukin 2, 4 and 5. And the action of this interleukin 2, 4, 5 are the acceleration of inflammatory responses, destruction of invading organism, and they can also responsible for the activation of T cell. Okay, this kind of thing. Then we have another chemical which is secreted from the T lymphocyte granules. We call it gamma interferon, and the action of the gamma interferon are the stimulation of phagocytic action. Whenever gamma interferon are secreted, so they can cause the phagocytosis action of each cell. Means each cells are then perform the phagocytotic action. Neutrophils and monocyte, I'm talking about these kind of the cell. Then they can also, activate the cytotoxic T cell, macrophages and natural killer cells. Then we have lysosomal enzymes. Now what are the action of these lysosomal enzymes? These lysosomal enzymes are responsible for the destruction of invading organisms. Okay, then we have, whenever the microorganisms are engulfed, then a phagosomes are formed. Then these phagosomes are fused with the lysosomes. When it is fused with the lysosomes, then what actually happen? Then lysosomes will secrete this lysosomal enzyme, due to which the microorganisms are destroyed. Then we have tumor necrosis factor. This tumor necrosis factor can cause what? The action of this tumor necrosis factor are the necrosis of tumor cells, can destroy the tumor cells, and activation of the immune system. They can activate the immune system. Different kinds of the immune systems, or we can say immune cells are activated. The tumor necrosis factor, the main action of the tumor necrosis factor is the activation of the immuno, and they can also responsible for the promotion of inflammation. Then we have another substance or chemical secreted from the T lymphocyte. We call it chemokines, and the action of the chemokine is the same as we discussed in the basophil or eosinophil. Means they can also responsible for the chemotaxis. Okay. Last we have B lymphocytes or B cell. So the substance which are secreted from the B lymphocytes or B cells, we usually call that these are the substance which are secreted from the B cells. And the action of each substance, this immunoglobulin are responsible for the destruction of invading organisms. Tumor necrosis factor, the same function of the tumor necrosis factor as we discussed in the T lymphocyte, means they can cause the necrosis of the tumor cells. They are responsible for the activations of the immune system, and they are also responsible for the acceleration of inflammatory responses. Then we have again chemokines, and again these chemokines are responsible for the chemotaxis process. Okay, so that's all about the cells and the chemical which are secreted from the each cell and the action of each chemicals. Okay, I hope you understand about this video lecture. If you have any kind of questions, so you can write it into a comment. If you want these kind of slides for your study, so I will give the link in the description box, then you can download it from the website. Okay, so if you have any kind of questions, so you can write it into a comment. Inshallah, I will give you answer as soon as possible. If you like this video, so make sure to hit the like button, share the video, and don't forget to subscribe the channel. Subscribe the channel to get more interesting video lecture like that. Thank you so much.